Now, let me explain to you about what was going on. The spirits. I'm first going to talk to you about very briefly the first class of spirits. The first class of spirits of disincarnation are actually your closest relatives. It could be uncle, it could be grandma, great-grandma, great-great-great-grandma. I think you could go back at least 7 generations. Well, maybe not. You could go back at least 3 generations, 4 generations, 5 generations, 6. Yeah, you can go about 7 generations back before you get something that you do not recognize. It's on a whole different framework. You wouldn't even recognize grandma. Like, grandma, is that you? So in this particular spectrum that we're in, this stratum that we're actually in, when spirits depart from here, and this is deep knowledge, I'm trying to make this very clear for you. You need to understand that when you depart from here, if you have any regrets, okay, if you have any doubts, things that you actually still wanted to do or fulfill, if you have any guilt, okay, any judgments, okay, all this makes you heavy. It basically makes you fat, okay, if you want to look at it this way. And this doesn't allow you to get down this narrow tunnel. It's actually in the center of your brain, which I was talking about before. But the reality is that when you don't go, because there is no death, you kind of remain somewhere. And you can say this is your memories entangled with other people's memories, okay? And that starts to create a space because it actually is energy. It's done by a real being that knows how to project. And so instead of going into the next stage of things, some say that's the light, right? But instead of going into that and saying, you know what, I'm good. Because many people, when they see that, they're like, fuck, it's hell. It's hell. I can't go to hell. I'm never going to see my kids again. I'm never going to be. And because they're always looking back, because they're not projectors, they weren't leaders. They were always in regret. They made this reality make them believe they were making mistakes. When they were born into this sin, they were acting like it was theirs, like the sin, which is the flesh and the beast body. They were acting like the body was theirs. The body is not yours. That's why they say you're not the body. You're just taking care of this. You should lease it and use it very well. Maybe you'll get another one that's even more pristine. But the reality is this is not you. So that's the process. The person actually gets into a life, and either through habits, some people know how to break addictions. Some people don't have addictions. And some people are very, very prone to addictions. But when we say addictions, most people think that's just drugs. Some people are addicted to love. You're addicted to love. So then hate's going to come in, right? Because that's what comes next, right? There's no yin without a yang. All right? So what this is really about is this is about, if you don't realize this projection in this illusionary sphere and the whole purpose of why you got into this vehicle in the first place, you become a lost soul. You actually, instead of progressing to the next stage, hang around, kind of disincarnate, running around your memories. And because you are now disincarnate, meaning you don't have a physical body, your memories are actually housed in other beings that you had a connection with, that you created with, that you made a contract with, that you had communion with, whether that's your daughter, whether that's your son, whether it's even your companies, your writings, all these different things that you had a communion with. That's what you're living through. So let's just talk about the physical beings, though, because when that's your family members, we're all family, that kind of gives everybody the divine right to do this. What would happen is that you can literally jump on to the next person as a spiritual being. And I just want to make this very clear before we move a couple layers up here. So meaning that if you want to, when you're on that disincarnated world, because you didn't want to progress on, connect with family, connect in unity, you thought you were going to miss out on the drinking and the clubbing and the partying. Remember, some people are more addicted than you, okay? So I'm like, man, you mean no more 12, shout? I'm going back in. I'm sure I can make something in there, okay? So when they do that, when they come back in, they just possess people. So when they want to drink, they find somebody else at the club that has got themselves open and resonating this vibration, and they go right into them. And so you can imagine what it looks like on the back end. This is what I was trying to explain to people, but I only can use English, unfortunately. And when I do it in meditation, some people say they see me on the other side. But basically it equals where hospitals, graveyards, clubs, stadiums, and all these places have so many spirits running around. And I'm not on the big boys yet. in the demigod, Gog Magog, Medellin. I'm not on to them yet. I'm just talking about Poogie. I'm talking about Juan. I'm talking about Shaquita. I'm talking about Umbute. I'm talking about them, okay? Because we missed that. We really missed that in spirituality. You got all these people talk about all this other stuff, but they're not telling you your ideas in your mind are actually coming from the ancestors that didn't, at minimum, are coming from the ancestors that didn't pass on. And when they have bad habits, like, see, great-great-granddad, if he didn't make it, because now you're going through a process, okay, from coal to diamond, okay? So that means that everybody started off with something that they needed to polish. But when you got great-great-great-granddad still wanting to pimp inside of you, you got great-grandmother still wanting to hofriat, which is basically to prostitute virgins off to jinn, okay? When you still have them hanging around, this leads to suggestions to where you need a little bit of assistance sometimes driving your ship, meaning that after a while you get shipwrecked. This is what happens when you create too many marriages, too many relationships. You got one ancestor, they want to drink, but the other one wants to be a vegan. What's going to happen? Either way, you're going to piss one off. And that's what most people's minds are like. They have so many spirits that they're dealing with. No matter what they do, they can't seem to do their best. Have you ever felt like that? Soon as you do something, something's already back. Oh, you should have treated them like that. Then the spirit's like, what do you mean you should have treated? Look what they did. You are a weakling. I'm not weak. I'm compassionate. Now you see where this whole schizophrenia, bipolar thing actually comes from? It's not just the spirits. It's even you rebuttaling the spirits as the prophet in your own body. Like, no, that's not what's happening. I'm telling you, we keep in balance. Okay, that last night I wasn't keeping balance. We went in, but you see, so all of that though, time draws nigh. Because that was their duty. Their duty was to distract.